We were sort of sitting back and figuring, okay, we got Anthony Davis, we got James Harden with his month, we got the Lakers losing again, and all this led you to think of one guy who didn't even play.
I already get so much stuff from people. But at the end of the day, LeBron James is the MVP. And let me tell you why. A guy that has not played basketball in a month is the MVP. MVP is most valuable player to your team. Right now, say whatever you want, there are things going on behind the scenes that are putting Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans in a position to most likely trade or put them in a position to trade AD. A lot of that is being orchestrated by the camp, by LeBron James. And I'm not saying that, look, he's not forcing them to the Lakers, but he's putting the Lakers in a very good position to get them. So when you're talking about MVP and most valuable player, a guy that has not played in a month, he's been busy. He's been busy, don't make no mistake, not just playing games.
Well, and it does appear that Anthony Davis wants to play with LeBron.
Yeah, look, he got fined $50,000, right? And we were discussing this. For the average American salary, that's $120. If you could quit or be fired from your job and get your dream job in a dream location, the only thing it was going to cost you was $120. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you guys would do that right now, this second? You might call up your boss right now and be like, yo, I ain't coming in. That's the end of it.
So let's get to that, because you're mentioning this $50,000 fine, and because of his agents and the comments that Davis won't sign an extension and wants to be traded, this is why this happened. The league office said in a written statement released Tuesday that Davis has violated a collectively bargained rule prohibiting players or their representatives from making public trade demands. So this, I thought, was pretty interesting. ESPN NBA insider Brian Windhorst tweeted this out to help put the fine into context. And you said what you said about the $120, but by declining the possibility of a supermax extension with the Pelicans this summer, Anthony Davis left a potential $80 million on the table, and that just puts that $50,000 fine in perspective.
So we all understand that they're dealing in amounts of money that the average person can't even fathom. So we get that part of it. And look, Anthony Davis, God bless him, he's put himself in that position. Having said that, if they do not make this deal in the next 8 days, now what happens? You got Davis looking to his future. You have the Pelicans looking to theirs. What happens?
That's probably the most unknown. You know he's on his way out. You just don't know when and where, right? You can kind of have favorites of Lakers. You know the Celtics have a ton of assets, and they, Danny Ainge has been talking about how much he loves, and Anthony Davis, or just we know that. But really, what do you do? Because if you play him, you're going to win games, but you know he's not going to stay there. If you don't play him, now the tanking is not the right word, but you can get a lot of time for Jahlil Okafor. You can start to see the assets that you have. But if you play him and he helps you win 10 games, your draft number can go from 8 to 12. That's not what you want. So that's the disadvantage that the Pelicans have if they keep him, because then you're going to play him. What do we do? How is this going to work out? There's actually a more complicated thing if you keep him over this next 40 games than anything else.
And Anthony Davis obviously has a lot of power in all this about where he wants to go. I'm not asking you to be a mind reader, but when you think about what he may want, what do you think he might want to do?
I think he really and truly just wants to play. I like LA might be his preferred destination, but just very similar to Paul George going to Oklahoma City and finding a home, I think that he could find a home someplace else. You can talk about where you want to go, but the reality situation is if he were to end up in a Boston this summer, then maybe he could, a year recruitment, maybe he can resign there because he enjoyed it so much.
But if his finger's okay, he doesn't want to sit out. Is my point.
Again, that's why I'm saying this next 8 days is not just about where's he going, but if they decide to keep him, understand now you have a different problem on your hand. You have a guy that's going to be there for 40 games. If you play him, you're going to hurt your draft spot and players underneath him.
We're talking about shutting down a healthy superstar halfway through a season. If it's ever happened before, I'm not aware of it. We would really be in uncharted territory there, and everyone would understand why they would be doing it. And to go back to your previous thought, here's what teams are weighing. If you're the Lakers, you're trying to get him, everyone anticipates he wants to be there. If not, you would have won a lot of money in a bet saying Paul George was going to re-sign in Oklahoma City the day that trade was made. So if you're one of these other teams out there, you roll the dice on it, you trade for Anthony Davis, and you hope that you have 1 year to convince him to want to stay put. That's the game that everyone but the Lakers are playing.
Yeah, and the thing that's very frustrating for teams is when they were talking about San Antonio and the Kawhi trade is you do not want to give in to the Lakers. You do not want to give in to a player's demand because you're setting a precedent. So you got to kind of hold it and say, hey, look, we're going to take the best offer. I don't care where you want to go or what you want to do. We're going to get the best offer for us.
I love that trade deadline countdown clock.